Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this talk entitled What's New in Android. So we're going to talk today about Android 4.1 and 4.2. They're both the same version of Android. They're both Jelly Bean, and 4.1 was launched earlier this summer. I think it was June or July. It's all fuzzy in my head. But they're closely related. So we're going to talk about some of the developer features that you can find in 4.1, some of the ones you can find in 4.2. And we're also going to apply some of the methodology that Chet talked about in his previous talk, if you were there. It's called conference-driven development. So marketing gave us a lot of slides for this talk. So apologies in advance, but you'll see the slides are beautiful.
They're beautiful.
They're beautiful. For once, we have pretty slides. It's awesome. So hi, I'm Romain Guy, and this is Chet Haase, and we're both engineers on the Android framework team at Google, and we focus mostly on the UI toolkit, graphics, and performance. Toolkit, graphics, and performance, also animations.
Yes.
So first, so this is Chet's part. This is where he bores you to death with numbers.
We have 58, 329, and 169.
It's a lot, by the way.
I find the next numbers more interesting, actually. 560 million total activations. That's like larger than the Bay Area. That's an unbelievable amount of people with activated Android devices. And the new number on this is amazing. Like, this just keeps going up and up and up. I used to produce charts that were like, well, last time we talked to you, it was here. And now they don't actually make charts this big anymore. 1.3 million people a day activating these things.
Yeah, and again,
to
be clear, when we talk about activations, we talk about people who go through the setup process on the phone. It's not phones that are shipped. It's not phones that are sold. It's phones that are turned on by someone.
So unless these people are like resetting their device and going through the same setup every single day.
Well, maybe there's some crazy person in the audience that keeps activating phones all day long saying, oh, I love it.
And he's getting really good at it because he's doing it like most of that. So 700,000 applications and games on the Play Store, 1.5 billion installs of apps and games every month. Wow. And I have almost that much on my device. And 25 billion application installs total. One of the things that people talked about in the Android ecosystem early on was that, you know, the apps just weren't there. Moving on.
So before we start talking about the software, we want to talk a little bit about the hardware. So be prepared. You'll see a lot of numbers that are about the US, like the price. So don't come after the talk and get all angry at us. Like, we know it's not the right price.
Also, I don't know the exchange rate for Belgian like off the top of my head, so don't ask us to convert it either.
So Nexus 7, that's the device that we launched earlier this summer. It's a 7-inch tablet, and I think we proved our point. People want 7-inch tablets. Now other companies are making 7-inch tablets. It's pretty awesome. It's a great device. We gave away a few this week. I've seen some of you with it. If you've never seen it, I'm sure you can drop by the Google booth, and we can do a little demonstration for you. And when we introduced it, we had an 8 gig version and a 16 gig version. They were both pretty cheap, and now we phased out the 8 gig version, and we have a 32 gig version, and we added a 3G version, so you can get a SIM card, put it in your tablet, and get data everywhere you go. And you can see that even the 3G version with 32 gig is still pretty cheap. It's less than $300, so it's probably something like 400 euros in Europe. Nexus 4, that's our new phone. Again, if you've never seen it in person, because it went on sale yesterday, and I think it's sold out, so you cannot buy it. Too bad for you. You can drop by the Google booth. We have a couple. That's the phone we also carry and that we use for demos. We'll be happy to show it to you.
So if you mug us, you're going to have one.
Yeah, and if you're nice to us, you can even touch it. The
device.
The phone.
Just be clear here.
Some specs about the phone, it's a gorgeous 4.7-inch display. The resolution is wrong on this slide, actually. It's 1280 by 768. So it's
marketing slides.
Marketing slides. It's extra high density, so it's XHDPI for developers out there. I love the name of the display. This is the official name of the display, True HD IPS Plus Unibody Display. I call it a cool-looking display. So it's not pen tile anymore. We don't use the OLED technology, so all the subpixels are here if you're bothered by this kind of stuff. Gorilla Glass, really, really awesome CPU. So we have a quad core, so if your application is written to take advantage of multiple cores, you'll be happy to run your app on this device really fast. We also have an awesome GPU that's not listed on the slides, but it's great at gaming. Dual band Wi-Fi, whatever that is. NFC works really well. I guess, well, now everybody knows what NFC is about. Gorgeous camera, but we're going to show, here we go, a few samples of the camera app. So it's an 8 megapixel camera, just running through a few examples. It's better than before, better than Galaxy Nexus. Battery life, That's pretty cool. We have wireless charging, so we have accessories where you can, you just put the device on the little charging pad. You don't have to plug in a cable, it just charges. It's really nice when you want to charge overnight or when you have a few minutes at your desk. 8 gig, 16 gig version, the price is $300, but you can buy it right now because we're sold out, so sorry. The more interesting device is the new Nexus 10. That's our new tablet, and I love it. It's a 10-inch display, and the resolution is pretty insane. Actually, when we were told what, we're on the graphics team, we're on the performance team, we do graphic stuff. When I was told what the resolution of the display was, I think it went something like this. What the it's a lot of pixels. It was hard to get performance right. So 2560 by 1600, to give you an idea, if you've seen 30-inch monitors, that's the exact same resolution. Actually, it's pretty difficult for us to debug the device because when you take a screenshot, on macOS you have the dock and the bar at the top. We cannot fit the screenshot on screen. It's very awkward. 300 DPI. Awesome display. So once again, we'll have the device at the booth downstairs. We have a couple with us. So if you want to take a look at what the display looks like, please drop by. It's a really, really good display. So this device is the opposite of the phone. So on the phone, we have a quad-core CPU and a dual-core GPU. And here, it's the other way around. So we have a dual-core CPU and a quad-core GPU. The GPU is pretty awesome. You can run games at native resolution. You can go check them out downstairs. There's a bunch of 3D games that run really well. That's my favorite feature, actually. Finally, I have a tablet where I have front-facing speakers and I have stereo sound. So I hate it when I watch a movie and the sound comes from the side. Like, it drives me nuts. I keep turning my tablet around to try to have the stereo. It doesn't work really well. Wi-Fi speed, yada yada, awesome cameras, don't care. Dual microphones, yeah, that's noise cancellation. Dual NFC, that's kind of cool. NFC can be a little awkward to use sometimes because you don't quite know where the NFC antenna is. So we put one in the back and one in the front, so chances are you will find one of them. Maybe we should try to put them on the side. It's kind of like razor blades, we had more and more antennas. Micro HDMI, that's what we're going to use to do our demos. You can plug your tablet directly onto a TV or a monitor, makes for a great computing device. And since Android supports USB keyboards, Bluetooth keyboards, and mice, you can just use it as a normal laptop and plug it on a computer. Pogo pin for docks. The battery is awesome, but you're used to that if you have tablets. It's thin, it's light. Drop by the booth to take a look at it. All right, and it's not very expensive. It's $400 for the 16 gig version. Also, most of you will probably not get those things for free because you are in Europe. But if you buy it in the US, you get a bunch of movies and magazines and music for free. So move to the US if you want those.
The presentation was tuned for sort of the launch that was starting from the US. So we have the details for the US, and we don't have the details for the European launch. But you sort of get the idea. It's kind of a general idea sort of presentation.
So just a recap of Android 4.1 that we launched a few months ago. So there was a big push to get performance better on Android. So the project was called Project Butter.
Actually, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
It wasn't called a project at all until we reached Google I/O, and then with conference-driven development, marketing decided, hey, we need a name for this thing, Project Butter, and everyone went, ugh.
Yeah. Whenever I see that name, I think of a croissant. That's the kind of Project Butter I like. But if you're interested in Project Butter, there's a lot to talk about, and we have a session tomorrow called For Better or Worse. It's a terrible pun by Chet. And it's a pretty technical talk. Actually, I think we have to go through the slides again to even understand what.
We'll have to relearn all the stuff that we did and talked about.
And we're the guys who did the Project Butter.
Kind of deep graphic stuff. So if you want to know some details about the architecture, or if you're a graphics person, or if you need a place to sit down and eat, then yeah, please stop
If you're
by.
jet lagged and you need to catch an app, like come to our talk. Expandable notifications, those are really cool. You can, we have always had notifications on Android, and now they can be richer, so you can have interactive notifications with buttons and whatnot. But you can also collapse them and expand them. It's really useful. Smarter keyboard, we improved the word prediction. Offline voice typing speaks for itself. Google Now, blah, blah, blah. Okay, now 4.2. 4.2, we started the OTA yesterday, so some of you, if you have a Galaxy Nexus or a Nexus 7, you might already have the release.
Actually, who has 4.2? A handful.
So why are you
Who's
here?
waiting for 4.2? More. Okay.
And then there is everybody else who doesn't care. Okay, time for demos. So one of the biggest new features that we have for users is the new lock screen. And let's see if this works.
Yay!
Awesome. So this is the new lock screen. You can now have widgets on your lock screen. They are on tablets and phones. So here, for instance, you can see some of the built-in widgets. We have what's this song to recognize the song that's playing in the background. This is just a calendar. The widgets are fully interactive. And here we have a world clock, so you can have several time zones if you want. Of course, just like on the home screen, you can reorganize your widgets the way you want. You can remove widgets, and you can add more. And we have new APIs for widgets, and basically the API is just an attribute that you add on your widget to say, hey, this widget works on the lock screen. So if you already have widgets for Launcher, it's very easy for you to modify your application and make it work for the lock screen. And on phones, unfortunately, we weren't able to make HDMI work with our prototype phones, but on phone you can also swipe to the right and you get instant access to the camera. So it's even faster than before to be able to take pictures. Next up, we have something called the Daydreams. It's kind of like screensavers, except they are also interactive. They show up when you're charging the device or when you're docked, if you have a dock. So to activate them, you go to Settings, then Display, then Daydream. And you have a choice of Daydreams. Of course, third-party applications can add their own, and we ship with a few. So we have the clock that we had before. We have Photo Table, that's one of my favorites. It's a good demonstration of interactivity. So you just see photos, but I can also tap on them to zoom in on them. I can get rid of a photo if I don't want to see it, and they will keep coming. Of course, you can choose the photos from the internal storage, or you can get photos from Picasa. If we look at settings here, so this is all the albums I have, and you can select what photos you want to show. Another pretty interesting one is Currents. So Currents is one of the applications we introduced in 4.1. It's a news reader, and the Daydream will just show you news from different feeds, and you can scroll the news. You can tap on the news to see more information about it. So it actually can be pretty useful on your desk.
So accessibility was a big effort in 4.1 in Jelly Bean, and we introduced a lot of gestures that allow you to much more effectively navigate the phone if you're sight challenged. And there's simple gestures like, finger swiping. You can basically put it into an accessible mode where taps and swipes will navigate through the UI or through text, either by word or by character or by paragraph. So it makes it much more easy to navigate. Before, like, we had accessibility, but you kind of needed to know where things were in the UI to access them, which was probably not quite what you wanted if you weren't able to see the UI. So we made that a lot more effective in 4.1, and then in 4.2 we also added the ability to easily zoom in with a triple tap. So I think, are you seeing that now? Yeah. So
this feature is actually pretty useful for developers as well. Sometimes, when you're developing your UI and there's a little glitch or an artifact, or if you want to see if things line up, you can just triple tap, zooms, you can pinch zoom, and that's all you have to do.
It's also worth pointing out that in 4.2, that's not an API change. That's just a user feature that people can use. In 4.1, there were APIs introduced as well. For the most part, applications shouldn't care about it. We will do the right thing with your UI. But if you have custom views, then you may want to tell the framework how to navigate those views. So if you have things inside of one view, but you want an accessible user to be able to navigate to the different portions of that custom view, then we allow you the capability to do that. So there's no APIs for that.
So we have a new keyboard in 4.2. You might have heard about it. It's what we call the gesture keyboard. So we're going to show it to you as a video. It's a little easier. But basically, you just swipe vaguely over the letters that constitute the word, and we're going to figure out what you're trying to type. Here you see a demo with the English language, but it works, with any locale, any dictionary supported by Android. And again, if you want to see that feature, like drop by the Google booth and you can try it for yourself. It takes a little while to get used to, but after a couple of days, you get very efficient with it.
It's pretty cool, actually. I'm constantly just waving my finger over it, and it comes up with the right word, and I just can't imagine how it did it. I'm like, I crossed about 1 million letters here, but somehow it figured out that I was actually typing Schenectady. Then on to marketing slides.
So I just mentioned languages. We added new languages in Android, so we support now Turkish, Swedish, Greek, and a few others, and we've improved fonts. So yeah, we care deeply about localization and internationalization, and this is just part of the ongoing effort. We also wanted to give you an awesome demo of something called Wi-Fi display. Unfortunately, the dongle we have does not work with this equipment for encryption reasons. Anyway, Wi-Fi display, you can have a little dongle that you plug on the TV. It's just an HDMI dongle, and over Wi-Fi you can mirror what you have on your device. So it works with Nexus 4 right now. And we also have new APIs that we're going to talk about a little later. But we have APIs that you can use in your application. So if you want, you can display something different on the remote display or locally. And we'll try to have demos at the booth as well if you want to take a look at that. So camera, we wrote a new camera application, so it comes with a brand new UI. We have a new photo editor, so we have more advanced filters. You have more control about the image processing you can do. And Chet apparently destroyed the slide deck.
Marketing slides.
Don't press back, press forward. What are you doing? One of the new features that we introduced in the new camera app is HDR. So HDR stands for high dynamic range. You might have seen HDR pictures online, and usually they look really, really, really terrible. That's not what HDR is necessarily about. So the feature we have produces actually natural-looking photos. So here we have a couple of examples. So this is a picture I took of the Golden Gate a couple of weeks ago at sunset, and that was without HDR. So if you look at the shadows in the front, like on the bushes, you can see that all the details are gone. And this is typical of what happens when you take pictures with the camera, especially with a camera phone. And on the right side, you can see the same picture taken in the same place with HDR. So I didn't do anything. There's no post-processing. It comes from the phone itself. And now you can see all the details in the foreground as well. The colors are also better. The colors on the right are closer to what the sunset actually looked like when I was there. We have another quick example. So this is a typical scene, when you take a picture and there's bright lights in the background, everything else in the foreground, in the shadow, will be pretty much invisible. And here we get, once again, great results. This HDR is device specific, so it might not be on every phone or every tablet, but if your device supports it, then you will get it. In 4.0, we also introduced panoramas, and we expanded on the idea this time around with something called a Photosphere. So here you have a video that shows you how it works. It's pretty easy. You can create a 360-degree photo, and it produces just a JPEG, so you can share the JPEG with anybody. But if you have the adequate player, so for instance on the phone or on the Google Plus website online, you can look at the picture in 3D mode. So we're going to actually, let's try to take a picture with a tablet and see if it works in low light. It's pretty awkward with a tablet, but camera.
Especially if that's covering your camera.
No.
Oh, clever. Boy, these device manufacturers know what to do.
We have smart people at Google. Okay, Photosphere. Can you see what's going on? Okay, so align. And you can see that the lights in our eyes are really bright, and we can't see anything from here. All right. Let's get some of the ground. Wow, you can even see the laptop. Okay, done. So after the picture is taken, it has to be processed. So you get a notification, and you can see it's taking only a few seconds. And when it's done, you can open the panorama. Let's go to gallery. You can open the panorama in our special viewer. It's right here. And you can go in 3D mode. And here I can pan around, and you have this 3D sphere. If you don't go into the special viewer, you just get a normal rectangular image that you can share with anybody. The 3D information is just a metadata that comes with the file. So these are more examples of what you can achieve with the Photosphere. The goal is not necessarily to create the 360 degrees to create a sphere of pictures, but it's a great replacement for wide-angle lenses. So to take this kind of photo, normally you would have to have an expensive camera where you can change the lens and have one of those expensive wide-angle lenses. Instead, you can just use an Android phone and create gorgeous landscape photos. I've been there several times with my wide-angle lenses, and I cannot even get that with my very, very expensive camera. Now let's talk about Google now. Actually, so this section is interesting. I was commenting on Twitter that I really like Google now because I've been using it for several months, and I'm constantly surprised by the kind of results it gives me. And then, of course, it's Twitter, so people are complaining. And someone told me, well, outside of the US, it's completely useless. Well, it turns out that all the examples I'm going to show you here are examples that happened to us where we were in Paris just before we got here. So we were outside of the US.
The US and Paris only.
Yeah, the US and Paris only.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a Paris in the US. So.
Maybe that's it.
So we localize the UI so you can see, depending on the city where you are, we display pretty pictures if we have them. So here you have an example of something we call time to leave. So I created a fake appointment in my calendar, meeting with Chet at 11:45 a.m. And when you're 10 minutes, when the meeting is 10 minutes away, Google now will tell you, okay, now it's time to go. Here are the directions. Click on this button, you get navigation. Pretty easy. We also have, we can also inspect, if you want, we can look at your Gmail account, and we can extract information. So if you receive a shipment notification from Amazon, for instance, you're going to get a card that says, you have a package that's with an ETA of a couple of days. And here it simply saw that I had to check in at my hotel. It told me that it's time to check in and go to the hotel. So you can click on the hotel information, you can see where it is, get directions, or just go to the email. We do a lot more. So if you have a flight or things like that, we're going to also show you cards. When you're traveling, we can show you nearby attractions. It's a good way to be a tourist.
I never knew the Eiffel Tower was in Paris. It was handy to know.
Yeah, I was wondering. I like that you can see the scores. So they're between 0 and 30 because you give a score, you give 0, 1, 2, or 3, and then we give you an average. So how come the Eiffel Tower is only 27? Like who says I don't like it? And there were other things like that where maybe you don't care, but how can you not be happy about it? Or it's like, I'll give it a 0. I don't like the color of that thing.
I wouldn't have built it like that.
So photo spots nearby, that's interesting. Even if you're not traveling, it just looks at photos that we know about. And if we detect that a lot of people take a lot of photos in similar places, then we're going to tell you that maybe there's something interesting over there. Or maybe you'll just realize that it's one of those restaurants where people just take pictures of their food all the time and put them on Twitter. And as you travel, we try to be smart. So for instance, as soon as I'm in France, I get this automatic card that lets me translate between French and English. It's not very useful to me, but would have been useful to you. Yeah, you really suck at French. It's actually really good. Nearby event, same idea. Actually, Xav, I don't know if he's in the room, had a great story. He was looking at Google Now yesterday at our hotel. He's like, well, it's telling me about this event. There's a concert around. So I don't know what's going on. And this morning, the lobby of the hotel was packed, and we realized they were all wearing sweatshirts for that band that was playing the night before. So it's pretty amazing. It's a good way to find stuff to do if you don't know. And again, if you travel, you're going to get automatic conversion of currency, and you also get that's pretty useful, the time at home. So as you travel across time zones, we're going to tell you if it's time to call your wife or your husband or Chet. I can give you his number. Multiuser. I'll demo that. There you go. So Multiuser is available only on tablets for now.
I get to demo it?
Yes, you get to demo.
You trust me with
you can touch it.
Your device? So obviously Android this whole time up through 4.1, there can be only one, right? Everybody owns their device. But what if you want your kid to play with it, but you don't want your kid to actually destroy your data or mess around with the apps that you've installed, or you want your spouse to play with it, but your spouse may want different things installed than you currently have. Wouldn't it be nice if you could actually have multiple users on? Where is the... Prototype devices had power button in different locations. Very handy for me. So you can switch between users. So Romain has certain things installed in his account, but his kid might have different wallpaper or different applications installed. So it's going to swap out the wallpaper. It's kind of a nice indication that something different is going on. This other user has control over there. They have different lock screen widgets. We can log in and see that things are set up differently. On this one, we have markers down in the bar there for a quick launch. And then we can go back out to the lock screen again.
Yeah, so everything is specific to the user, like the files that you can see on the storage, the applications installed, the settings, everything is specific to you. So it's a great way to share your device. And the wallpaper, obviously.
And apparently his wife just got a notification.
Google Play, we have...
It's time to call your wife.
Well, Google now didn't tell me that. Google Play, so we've launched some of our services in more countries. Sorry, Belgium, not yet. So for instance, now you can purchase movies in Canada, the UK, France, Spain, and Australia. And we have, I think, more providers. Magazines, we're launching something, so we're launching magazines in Canada and Australia, but we're also launching HD magazines. So one of the issues with a device with such a resolution is that your content needs to also have a lot more pixels. So we're providing magazines in a high resolution. So those are pictures I took of a Nexus stand next to the same magazine printed on paper. And that's not fake, that's not screenshot, that's the actual screen. You know, I took a picture. And you can see that it looks extremely similar. I mean, with 300 dpi, it's pretty amazing the results we can get. And it actually made me want to buy magazines for the first time in years. And then I looked at magazines and they were full of ads. But please buy them. Music, we launched in a few more countries earlier this week. The UK, France, Germany, Italy, and Spain. If you don't know, oh, and also as part of Google Music Sonora, can you upload your own songs? So you can store about 20,000 songs, I think, for free, and you can listen to them anywhere you are. And we have a player on Android. But we also now do song matching. So if you have a song and we have that song, you don't have to upload it. We're going to give you access to a DRM-free version that's really high quality. So not only do you save on the upload time, but you also get a much better version of the song if that song came from a CD that you read years and years ago. A CD that you own, of course. At least one person is happy. So to recap, multi-user lock screen widget, gesture typing, Daydreams, Google Now, Photosphere, and OTA mid-November. So that's when we were writing the slides, but the OTA started yesterday. So you're getting the update right now as we speak. Okay, so now we can talk about developer stuff.
Yay!
Maybe the people who left the room can come back.
So some of the things we're going to talk about in the developer section relate to things we've already talked about, except it's more about the APIs. How do you actually access these capabilities from your applications? But there's other things that are sort of lower level details that the users might not be aware of, which are interesting for you guys to know about. So in 4.1, in Jelly Bean, we worked a lot on, as we were talking about, Project Butter. This is basically making everything smoother on the device, and a key part of this was synchronizing everything with the display refresh. So as soon as the display is ready to refresh, that's the best time for you to go out and grab the current input events and run the animations and do the rendering of all the widgets that you can then put on the screen so that the user is seeing the most up-to-date information possible on that frame. And you want to do it as close to that refresh time as possible, and everything needs to be synchronized. So we did a lot of work in Jelly Bean to do that. There's new APIs for you to access this. Most of this stuff is just for free. When you run animators, they're going to be run on the refresh. When your custom views get painted and standard components, all this stuff is just kind of free, right? But if you have a custom application, for instance, if you're using Surface View, you're doing rendering on your own thread, and you want to actually synchronize with everything else going on in the system, there's new APIs in the choreographer class and the time animator class that you can use to do that. You can basically put yourself on the same timing pulse as everybody else in the system so that you can take advantage of that synchronization in your application.
But the main point is that all your apps got better and you had nothing to do.
And there's other stuff. We'll actually talk more in detail about this kind of stuff at the talk tomorrow, the For Better or Worse talk tomorrow afternoon. So if you're interested in what we did and how you can take advantage of it, come to that talk tomorrow. In 4.2, we did some low-level acceleration optimization stuff for faster layers, as well as some of the shapes got much faster to draw. We're taking advantage of more GPU capabilities to draw some of the shapes that we rendered in software before. And we worked a bunch on launcher improvements, just more of these sort of advancing the general smoothness and performance of the platform. So more along the lines of a user feature, something that they will notice that the feel of the device is just much better. Again, come to the talk tomorrow if you want more details on that stuff. On 4.1, again, there was a lot of work on widgets. You can now resize the things, and you can give them different assets for landscape and portrait. There's new widgets that are remotable, so the grid layouts that we've been pitching as a more general purpose layout that can prevent deeply nested layout situations that we've seen a lot. That's now remotable. It's also in the support library, so there's lots of ways that you can take advantage of that one. And view stub is now remotable as well. And there's a new intent for viewing app wallpapers, so if you have a wallpaper in your application, it's much easier for the user to get to that capability. Then 4.2, the big widget work was putting those widgets on the lock screen, so now the user can actually access the widgets much faster from the lock screen instead. And there's a new text clock widget.
It's extremely exciting. I wrote that widget. I was really excited about it.
In 4.1, we have some new animation capabilities, close to my heart. View Property Animator has 3 new methods. We'll see a little bit of code and see how those work. And there was also a new capability added for a layout transition. If you want to know more about animation overall in Android, you should come to our talk yesterday. View Property Animator. So the general way that it works, it's a very fluent API for you to basically set some properties on a view, except it will animate to those properties values instead of simply setting them atomically. So you say view.animate.alpha 0, this will fade the thing out over whatever the duration is on that animator. Or .translation x of 500, or you could actually string these things together and say view.animate.alpha.translation x, and all of that thing, all of those changes will happen in the same animator. They're all synchronized together, very efficient, and very little code to specify all this stuff. There's a new capability added to take advantage of hardware layers. We've always recommended that since we started accelerating things through the GPU, that if you're going to animate complex views or complex view hierarchies, and if those things are not changing during the animation, that it might work out for you better to actually put that thing in a layer just for the duration of the animation. And the general way you do this is just you say set layer type, and then you run an animation, then set a listener so that you get a callback at the end of the animation, and then you can remove the layer. And we made that easier. The whole point of View Property Animator is to provide very terse specification of what it is you want to do. So we took out all that boilerplate code that you had to run to get layer capabilities, and instead you just say with layer. We build the layer, we run the animation. When the animation is done, we tear down the layer. And start action and end action, again, it's all about less boilerplate code for you. You could do all this stuff before by basically adding a listener and doing the right thing at either start time or end time, but we made it a little bit more concise, so now you just add a runnable and say, with start action, do the following, with end action, do the following. This is handy for doing things like you want to fade out a view, but after the view is faded out, you want to restore the alpha value to opaque, so that the next time you actually show the view, it's actually opaque and people can see it instead of invisible because alpha has been animated to 0. A layout transition is a handy class. Again, we talked about this yesterday, so come to that talk. It's very convenient for doing simple animations for container changes. Specifically, it allows you to, when views are removed or added or set visible so they're shown or hidden, then we will animate the changes to all the siblings in that parent, and in fact all the parents all the way up the hierarchy. So you take out a view, the container resizes all the other views, move to remove the space created by that thing that was removed. So very convenient. It's like one line of code to activate this thing, very nice. But it did not handle the situation of simply changes in the container. So if you change the size of one of the children in that container, that would just snap into place. You wouldn't actually get a nice animated effect. So we added this one capability called changing, so you can set it, enable a transition type of changing, and that will make it listen to all changes in the layout and react to those, as well as the add remove capabilities that we had before.
We have a bunch of improvements in the framework. I won't spend too much time on it. One of the biggest changes was in text view. We improved the memory usage, we improved performance, especially when we added support for right-to-left languages. We also added something that's pretty interesting. It's called database query cancellation. So if you have cursors or content providers or loaders, you can at any point cancel the query, because those queries can run for quite a long time. And you can now you have now more control over it. Nested fragments, it's something that a lot of you have been asking for. We listened, they are now available. They're also in the support library. And we added a few interesting things. One of them is the atomic file, for instance. If you need to write a file to disk, atomic file is a pretty safe way to do it. So this is an example of how you cancel a query. You just create a new cancellation signal. You set a listener on it that will be your callback when the cancellation actually happens. And for instance, here we're calling the query method on the content resolver, and you just pass the signal to the query method. And whenever you want to cancel your query, you just cancel. So it's a very simple API, and it's a great way to squeeze more performance out of your application or to save battery life. For instance, if you know a query is running and the user finishes the activity, you can just go cancel the query and stop the device from doing too much work. We added a bunch of capabilities around activity animations. If you use the list of recents.
You want a demo?
Yeah, we can try to demo that. So in the list of recents, you can see a zoom animation. So launch an app. Just any app. And when you, no, recents, not home.
Yeah, I know, but then you can see them.
Okay.
Isn't that nice?
So when you click on an activity, you can see this zoom effect from the thumbnail, back and forth. And we give you APIs to do that yourself in your own application. We had more details on this yesterday, so you can catch the talk on parlys.com when it becomes available to know more about it. That's the example. We're going to skip that. Navigation, we introduced the action bar a while ago, and it was quite a lot of code sometimes to handle the up button, to handle the navigation. We made that a little easier in Jelly Bean. So we have this new task stack builder class that helps you create the stack of activities more easily, and we have the automatic up navigation.
Actually, there's a talk at Google I/O by a couple of the people working on that feature. And they talk about navigation in general. It's kind of a best practices thing with a UX designer and a developer. So we want people to get more consistent about this, to give the user a more consistent experience. So I would highly recommend you watch the talk by Adam Powell and Rich Fulcher.
Yep. So this is an example of how you use the up navigation in your manifest. You just declare what is the parent activity, and we're going to take care of everything else for you. This is how you do it in code. So you create a stack builder called create, and then you have this method add parent stack. Again, if you want to know more. Internationalization, so RTL was a...
Can we run that again?
Yes, right to left text. Chet is very proud of this joke.
There you go.
Was a big push for us. It's pretty complicated to implement, and we try to limit the number of APIs that we expose. But as of Android 4.2, we also have support for RTL layouts. So if you want to fully localize your UI for instance, Hebrew or Arabic, you might have to use the new APIs. It's usually pretty simple. So in your manifest, you say that you support RTL. We want you to test your app first. And here's an example of a very simple text view. So we have a layout gravity, and we said that we want to align to the right. And we have a margin left and a margin right. The problem is that when the UI is mirrored, right should be to the left, and left should be to the right. So instead, we have new constants. Instead of using right, you should say and. Instead of margin left and margin right, you just say margin start and margin end. It's pretty easy to do. For instance, we completely localized this way the system UI and Gmail. And basically, it was just a big search and replace. Left becomes start, right becomes end. And also, the SDK ADT has now new preview tools that make it very easy for you to test your application right to left. Accessibility, we already mentioned it. There are new APIs. This one is very important. We're adding a new permission to read data from the external storage. Before, you had to have a permission to write on it, but your writing will automatically give you access to read. So there's a new developer option that you can turn on to emulate the enforcement of the permission. So you should turn that on and test your app. And if your app crashes because you don't have your reading data from the external storage, that means you need this new permission. We don't enforce the permission by default yet, but we will eventually. So test your app, and if you need the permission, just add it to your manifest. Graphics in 4.2, we've added support finally for EGL 1.4. So if you are an OpenGL developer, it was pretty difficult to create an OpenGL ES2 context. And we added all the missing methods of EGL. There were also a few missing methods in OpenGL ES2, and they're now in the platform. We also added bitmap trilinear filtering. It's a very fancy term for something pretty simple. So you have a bitmap, and you can call set has bitmap true. And what we're going to do is we take your bitmap, so the fish up here, and we create a copy at half the size, and we take that version and we make a copy at half the size, and so on and so on. And if you scale your images up and down, we're going to pick the best size to do the resizing at runtime. This gives you a higher quality. It takes up a little bit more RAM. It's about 30% more RAM than a normal bitmap. But if you have a really large image that you're going to scale down at a very small size, for instance, if you remember the photo table screensaver I showed you, we had those really big full-screen images, and we showed them pretty small on the table. Use bitmaps. It will look better. Render script compute in 4.1 we added support for Neon. So Neon is a set of instructions in ARM CPUs that let you run instructions in parallel and treat and process more data at a time. It was a lot faster. And in Android 4.2 we have something called filter script. So it's just a subset of render script that's really targeted at image processing. And we give you a few entrancing. So if you want to do a blur or a convolution, we have methods that do it for you. The big news about RenderScript is that on Nexus 10, we support RenderScript on the GPU. So we're going to run your scripts on the GPU, and you're going to get better performance. So this gives you an idea of the performance improvements we've had in RenderScript over time. So we're comparing Galaxy Nexus on 4.0, 4.1, 4.2, and Nexus 10 on 4.2. This is just relative speed improvement. So you can see that, for instance, the levels, we're like 8 times faster than we were on Galaxy Nexus running on ICS. So this makes a big difference. And if you need to do heavy computations in your application, you should definitely take a look at RenderScript. And there was a great talk at Google I/O by Jeff Sharkey called Do More with Less, where he gives an example of how to use RenderScript.
So we also had some media work that happened, so we'll talk about a little bit of that. There's API access to low-level codec data. If you want to plug in at a lower level of the stream, you can do that now. Also, apparently the shutter sound was bugging some people. There's the ability to query whether you can change that sound, because some devices will not let you. But if you can change it, then you can go ahead and disable the thing as well.
Yeah, this was actually a feature that many people have requested.
So you can get the camera info, and then you can query that property, and then you can disable it if the property allows you to do so. There was a bunch of work going on with audio latency, which has been an ongoing issue with some application types. And so there was a lot of improvements in 4.1 to reduce the latency significantly in some particular situations. And there was more work that happened in 4.2 specifically for NDK applications that used OpenSL ES. And you can now query whether the device that you're on has this capability that in the package manager, it's this property that you can query and say, is this supported on this device? And if it is, then you can take advantage of this, again, significantly improved audio latency. And we continue to work on it. It's known that there are still other things that we can improve, so we're still going ahead on it. In the support library, we've now added a bunch of capabilities that are in the platform already. So all of the accessibility stuff that we talked about, the APIs that we talked about before for you to be able to make your application more accessible are in the support library, as well as nested fragments. Grid layout made it there, I think, around the 4.1 time frame. And also view transformers in View Pager.
So view transformers is interesting. Right now in the View Pager, when you swipe between pages, you just get this horizontal scroll. But with the view transformer, you can override that behavior, and if you want, you can do similar effects to what you see in Launcher. So you can do those 3D scale effects, you can do your fades, you can do 3D rotations. It makes View Pager a lot more flexible and useful.
As we said, there was a lot of work on notifications, making enhanced notifications that you can expand, they can be more interactive, you can do things directly in the notifications, you can expand them, you can close them, lots of work in notifications. I would suggest if you're interested in the details and the notification stuff, you check out our talk from I/O, which was called ta-da, What's New in Android? And the last part of that talk is by Dr. Dan Sandler, who goes on in great detail about the new capabilities and notifications. And then in 4.2, I think there's enhanced expansion capabilities, probably more like implementation details. The really big changes were in 4.1. Multiple displays. So there was a lot of work going on there. We've seen a little bit of it already, talking about wireless display, the ability of the Nexus 4 to go through this dongle to talk HDMI to your TV. But there's actually more capabilities than that. Are we going to do a demo here?
Yeah, I just want to show you a quick demo. So before we had HDMI support on Android, but it was only mirroring. So now with the new Multiple Displays API, you can control what you want to show on the other display. And if you go to Developer Options, you can click Simulate Secondary Display. So for instance, we'll pick a 720p TV DPI tablet. So you get this little floating window, and you can see that it's a mirror of what I'm currently showing on the real screen. And in your application, if you're using the multiple display APIs and you want to test very easily, you can just bring up that window and you'll be able to draw whatever you want in that window. Oops.
An important capability there for developers is to know about the security situation of that external display. Can I actually stream my protected content to that display and have it still be secure? So you can query that capability of the external display. And wireless display, it's important to note, that's just an implementation detail. It just looks like another display, just like that overlay window, just like some TV that you're connected to, you could be connected wirelessly through HDMI. And it's just another multiple display.
So we have a bit of sample code showing you how to use the new API. So you have a new thing called the Display Manager, and you can iterate over all the available displays. And when you ask for the type of the display, the one that's on the device is the built-in display. So here what we're doing, we create a new presentation for any display that's not the built-in display. So we want to show different content on the remote displays. A presentation is the new API we use to show something on a separate display. And the presentation is basically just a dialogue. And this is what it looks like here. So we create a class that extends presentation. You have an on-create callback. You can call set content view. It's very, very similar to activities and dialogues and so on. So you can use all the views. You can use OpenGL. You can use the canvas. Yeah. Nothing new here. You can also listen for display event changes if you want to listen to, if for instance, if I pull the HDMI cable out and you want to stop your rendering thread, if you're rendering something on the secondary display, you can listen to those events. Daydreams, I showed you Daydreams. They're very easy to implement. And this is what it looks like. So you just extend Dream Service. And you have a few callbacks that are, again, very similar to activities and dialogue. You can call set content view. The only two specific APIs that we have are set interactive true. Your Daydream does not have to be interactive, but if it is, let us know. And you can also make it full screen. And then you'll get a callback when the dream is starting or stopping. Be very careful with dreams. When you back out of the dream, the process is still running. So if you don't stop your rendering threads, or if you don't stop your animations, or don't clean up your resources, you're going to take a lot of resources in the background while the user is trying to use the device.
So one of the interesting things that I found as I was playing with a sample dream so that I could understand the API is it was really easy to test it as a simple activity. So not necessarily have to go into the screensaver thing every time to launch this thing and see how it was working. It was basically the same exact structure. I took the exact code from this part of my dream, which was not the view itself, but just the setup of the view, and I just copied it into an activity instead. There were two other methods that I needed to override for the starting and destruction lifecycle events, and that was it. So it's very parallel to activities.
And be careful about memory leaks, because if you leak in your dream, it becomes a wet dream. I'm so proud of that joke. Multiple users, there are really no new APIs. We do have a few APIs that you can use to query the current user, but it's mostly about good practices. So now you cannot use device-wide identifiers such as the MAC address to identify a unique user. You have to use your own system, so usually you should ask a server for a token or use some kind of UUID. Same thing, don't hardcode path to the data directories. Use the APIs that we have in place. Otherwise, you won't get the data in the proper location. When the screen turns on, that doesn't mean that the user will be able to see your application, because you might be running as a different user. And finally, there's a new callback called audio becoming noisy, which I think, when do we send that again?
I assume that it's when you're actually playing audio and another user is in the foreground. You don't necessarily want to play your music from this user when there's another user that's actually in the foreground.
Yeah, like if you start the music player for two users, you'll get that callback and you should stop your playback. Finally, developer options. So we mentioned developer options. We have a bunch of new developer options that are very useful. Maybe you're already aware of that, but they are now hidden in settings. You won't see them after you get the update for Android 4.2. We plan on having an application on Google Play on the store that will turn that back on for you. I don't know what the name will be, but probably something along the lines of developer tools. Or you can simply go in the About Phone category and tap the build number 7 times, and the developer options will come back. And as you tap the build number, you'll get a little message that tells you how many times you have left to tap. There's some of the new developer options. So you have an easier way to capture bug reports. You can verify apps over USB. We have this new security feature. When you install an app, we can check the signature on our servers, and if we know that it contains a malware, we won't install it. You can turn that on, so every time you plug in your device on your computer, like if the computer tries to install an application without you knowing it, there will be a verification. Hardware layer updates, that's graphic stuff. GPU overdraw is very important. You should take a look at the talk that we gave yesterday to know more about it. 4x MSA, we'll pretend it's developer option. It's really a cool way to get anti-aliasing in games. So you can turn that on and run your games with cool anti-aliasing. Simulate secondary displays, we showed you what it looks like. And OpenGL traces, if you use OpenGL, you might want to take a look at this option to get automatic logging of OpenGL errors, or to see all the GL calls that you make in systrace, and GL calls that you make in systrace. And we'll talk more about systrace tomorrow. So that's it for today. A bunch of new awesome devices. We have a few things to give away. Let's switch back to. So if you don't have a seat, take a seat.
Can the person in the last row up there look down on the floor in the stairway and tell me what the row number is? It's probably something like 22? 21. Okay, so we have 21 rows by how many seats? 36.
Okay. So,
but it's kind of sparse.
Seats 31. So, is there anybody in seat 31? Row number 5. That's an easy one. Row number 5. Seat 31.
What? 31.
Aww. Is anybody in row? There's nobody in row number.
No, 1, 2. Oh, gee, look, there's someone in that seat.
Wait, that's not even row number 5.
Wait, 30. Wait, I don't know what I'm doing. This is row number. There's nobody there.
Just give him the thingy. Okay, seat number 16, row 20. Well, row 21.
Oh. Okay, who wants a
two
broken...
engineers playing catch.
What?
Row 21. All the way up. Run, Chet. We have 3 minutes left. Seat number 16.
Okay, I'm not bringing this back down. He was sitting in 15. Oh, all right. Your turn.
What? Okay, are you sure?
Yes.
Because it says seat number 1 or row number 3.
My turn.
Oh, there's nobody there. Okay. row 21 again, and seat 17.
Your turn.
Crap. That's far. Can't you meet me halfway?
Devoxx wears me out.
Yeah, well, it's the only exercise we get all day, so. 21, where's 21? Oh, 17. Here you go.
Thank you.
17. What? Which one? Oh, you ran several already.
Yes.
I don't know what I'm looking at. What
Just
were you
start-
doing? You
Just
did
start,
row.
just start at the bottom.
Okay. The one at the bottom says row 18, seat 12. Your turn. Row 18, seat 12, it would be middle, I don't know. And finally, we have this guy.
It's a Nexus 4. Row 18. What was
It
this?
says it's a Nexus 4 with Chet's sweat on it. Now, if that doesn't make you
Chet,
get up and leave the theater.
What was the seat?
What did I say? I don't know.
12, okay. Why so far? 12, where's 12? There you go.
All right, I'm reading the last one on the list. It is row 9, seat 14. Feel free to raise your hand and help me out. 9,
It's here.
14. 9. All right. We have a winner. I would pass this down, but someone might take it. I don't. Thanks.
And don't forget to drop by the booth if you have questions or if you want to see the devices. We'll be there all week. Thank you very much.
Thanks.